Kale stood at the edge of the jagged cliff, the wind whipping his hair and coat around him. Below, the valley stretched like a green ocean, broken by strange towering ruins half swallowed by the earth. His boots crunched against the loose stones as he scanned the horizon. The planet, Luthera, was beautiful yet dangerous. Humans had only recently settled here, drawn by the promise of rare minerals hidden beneath the mountains. Kale had been part of the first exploration team. "Kale, over here," called Rena, a fellow explorer. Her voice bounced off the cliffs and echoed in the valley below. He turned and carefully made his way down the narrow path. The team had stumbled across an enormous structure, partially collapsed, and from within it came faint, trembling groans. When they reached the ruin, Kyle froze. There, pinned under a massive slab of stone, was a being unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim sunlight. Tall and pale, with features both human and otherworldly, her eyes were deep pools of gold, filled with intelligence and something else. Pain. "Help me," she said, her voice trembling but strangely musical. "Please, help me." The team froze, unsure what to do. Most humans would have seen a giant of this size as a threat, but Kyle's curiosity outweighed his fear. He carefully stepped forward. "Can you move?" he asked. Not alone," she whispered. "I need your help." Kyle glanced at the fallen slab. It was enormous, far heavier than any human could lift. Yet something about her gaze made him act. He ran back to the team, and together, using ropes, levers, and sheer effort, they managed to lift the stone just enough for the giantess to pull herself free. She staggered to her feet, towering over the humans, her golden eyes fixed on Kale. Despite her size, she smiled. "Thank you, brave human." Kale's heart pounded. He had read stories of the ancient giants, creatures that lived long before humans spread through the stars. Most believed they were extinct, and yet here she was, alive. "My name is Sarilith," she said. Her voice carried a strange power, gentle yet commanding. "And you have chosen to trust me. That is rare among your kind. We trust. Some things, not all," Kale replied cautiously. "Why were you trapped here?" Sarilith's face darkened. "Long ago I fought for this land. I protected it. But your people, they came without understanding. Others sought to use the land's power for greed. I tried to stop them. I was caught in the ruins when the ground shifted. I have slept too long under stone," Kale's team whispered among themselves, uneasy. But Kale felt a strange connection. Humans had always been explorers, problem solvers, survivors, and here standing before him was someone who had lived for centuries, guarding secrets they barely understood. "Can you walk?" he asked. "I can," she said, taking her first careful steps. Her movements were graceful, even with the weight of her size. "But I need a weapon. Something to protect this land. Something that can fight endless battles if needed." Kale frowned. "A weapon?" Sarilith nodded, her eyes glinting. "A sword, the blade of eternal flame. It rests in the ruins beyond the mountains. Only a mortal can retrieve it. Only one with courage and a willing heart." Kale's pulse quickened. Stories of the blade were legend, whispered in human colonies as tales of impossible power. Some said it could grant strength beyond measure. Others said it carried a curse. And yet Sarilith's presence, her plea, stirred something in him. "We could help you," he said slowly. "But others in my team, they might not agree." Sarilith studied him, her golden eyes piercing yet kind. "Do not worry about them. Humans often fear what they do not understand. You have the heart of a warrior. Take my hand, and we will face this together." Kale looked at her hand, enormous compared to his, and then back at the ruins behind her. This could be dangerous, perhaps even deadly, and yet, he nodded. "I'll help you," he said. Sarilith smiled, a strange warmth in her expression. "Then we begin. But first you must understand. The blade does not grant life without price. Whoever wields it will never know death in the normal way. Battles will follow you. Pain will follow you. Yet strength you cannot imagine will be yours." Kale swallowed hard. The weight of responsibility pressed on him. But he remembered humanity's history. Humans were survivors, thinkers, builders. They faced impossible odds and adapted, learning from every mistake. Perhaps that was why Sarilith had chosen him. The team set off, climbing higher into the mountains. The path was treacherous, jagged rocks and narrow ledges, and strange winds that seemed almost alive. Sarilith moved beside Kyle, guiding him with knowledge of the terrain. her presence both reassuring and awe-inspiring. "Why trust a human?" asked Rena, her voice low as they walked. Sarilith glanced down at her, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Because some of your kind, they can surprise even those who have lived 1,000 years. You carry courage that even giants have forgotten." Kale kept pace, his mind focused. He studied the ruins they passed, signs of an ancient civilization. Enormous stone statues, carvings of battles long past, and glyphs glowing faintly with unknown energy. Sarilith explained bits and pieces, teaching him to read the symbols, to understand the history of her people. Hours passed. They reached a plateau where the sun painted the sky in gold and crimson. Beyond, the mountains rose like silent guardians, the ruins of the blade waiting somewhere within. Kale stopped to catch his breath. "What happens when we find it?" he asked. Sarilith's eyes sparkled with both excitement and sorrow. "The blade will choose. Only one may wield it fully, and the choice will change you perhaps forever." Kyle nodded, though he did not fully understand. Adventure, danger, and mystery were nothing new to humans. But the weight of Sarilith's words lingered in his mind. That night they made camp under the cliffs. Sarilith kept watch, her enormous form casting a shadow over the humans. Kale stared into the fire, thinking of the blade, the risks, and the strange golden-eyed giant who trusted him. "Kale," Sarilith said softly, "do not fear the path ahead. Fear is for those who have forgotten their strength. You must remember what it is to be human." Kale looked up at her. "And what is that?" "Cleverness, courage, hope. You fight not because you are strong, but because you never give up. Even when all seems lost, you rise again. That is what makes your kind remarkable." The fire crackled and Kale felt a surge of determination. Humans were not the tallest, the strongest, or the fastest, but they adapted, learned, and survived. And now, he would prove it. Not for glory, but for a chance to protect a being who had given humanity a rare gift. Trust. Morning came with a cold wind, carrying the scent of mountains and stone. Kale strapped his gear, feeling the weight of the coming journey. Sarilith stood tall beside him, silent and powerful. The path ahead was dangerous, filled with unknown traps and creatures. But Kale did not hesitate. With a nod from Sarilith, they began the climb toward the ruins that held the blade of eternal flame. Each step was careful, measured, and heavy with purpose. Kale felt the tension, the excitement, and the fear, but most of all he felt alive. Somewhere deep in the mountains, the blade waited. And with it, a test of courage that only a human could face. As they disappeared into the rising sun, the wind carried a whisper, almost like a laugh, ancient, mysterious, and full of promise. Kale could not see it, but he felt it, and he knew that the adventure had only just begun. The morning sun spilled gold across the jagged peaks as Kale and Sarilith climbed higher into the mountains. The wind was cold, cutting through their clothing like sharp knives, but neither of them faltered. Below, the valley stretched endlessly, a tapestry of green and gray, peaceful yet silent, as if it waited for what was coming. "Keep your eyes open," Sarilith warned. Her voice carried a tone of caution that Kale had come to respect. "The ruins are old, but they remember. They are not empty. You must be careful." Kale nodded. He had learned to trust her instincts. Every step she took was deliberate, guided by centuries of experience. Humans relied on quick thinking and adaptability, but giants had memory, an understanding of the past that humans could never fully grasp. Together, they were strong. The path narrowed as they entered a canyon, walls rising like the sides of a cathedral. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the stone, etched in patterns that pulsed with light as if sensing their presence. Kale studied them closely. "What do these mean?" he asked. Sarilith bent to inspect a symbol. "Warnings, protections, and tests. Whoever built these ruins wanted to ensure only the worthy could reach the blade. They did not trust strength alone. Only intelligence, courage, and heart could succeed." Kale's brow furrowed. "So it's like a maze?" "More than a maze," Sarilith said. "It is a trial. Many have come before, none have succeeded." As they moved deeper, the canyon walls shifted subtly. Kyle almost missed the faint click of stone against stone. He glanced at Sarilith, who raised a hand. A hidden trapdoor swung open beneath them. With lightning reflexes, she grabbed Kale and pulled him back just in time. "Careful," she whispered. "The ruins test more than strength. They test awareness, patience, and trust." Kyle's heart pounded, but he was not afraid. Humans had always faced danger, adapted to the unknown, and survived where others failed. He smiled at Siralith. "Then let them test me. I will not fail." They continued, moving carefully over ancient bridges and collapsing platforms. Strange, glowing creatures scuttled in the shadows, creatures that had lived in the ruins long before humans or giants. Kale fought them off when they became aggressive, using a combination of quick thinking and makeshift weapons. Siralith's strength and skill complemented him perfectly. Hours passed and the canyon opened into a vast chamber. Massive columns rose from the ground, carved with intricate patterns that told the story of the blade. Kale could feel the energy in the air. Warm, powerful, alive. "The blade is here," Siralith whispered. "It waits for the one who can claim it." At the center of the chamber lay a stone pedestal, and on it the blade of eternal flame. Its metal glowed faintly, humming like a living thing. Kyle felt a strange pull, as if the sword could see him, know him. He stepped forward, cautious yet drawn to it. "Remember," Siralith said, her voice steady, "the blade tests the heart. It can give unmatched strength, but it carries a price. Whoever wields it will never know death as others do. Battles will follow you. Pain will follow you, but power will be yours." Kyle reached for the sword. The moment his fingers touched its hilt, the chamber shook. Stone cracked and the glowing creatures emerged from the shadows surrounding them. The ruins had sensed his choice. "Move," Siralith shouted, stepping forward. Her immense size and strength made her a force to be reckoned with. She swung her arms, knocking creatures aside with careful precision. Kale fought alongside her, using agility, traps in the chamber, and quick thinking to outmaneuver the attackers. As the battle raged, Kale realized something extraordinary. The sword was not just a weapon, it was alive in some way. It pulsed in his hands, responding to his thoughts, lending him strength when he needed it most. The creatures fell back under their combined power, the ruins themselves seeming to acknowledge Kale's courage and heart. When the last of the creatures was defeated, silence fell. The chamber was still, save for the faint hum of the blade. Kale lowered it carefully, his chest heaving. "Good," Siralith said, her golden eyes shining with approval. "You have passed the first trial. The blade recognizes your heart, but the true test is not finished. You must choose, to keep it or leave it." Kyle stared at the sword. The power it promised was incredible. He could feel it flowing into him, urging him to act, to protect, to fight. And yet he remembered her warning. The price: endless battles, isolation, the weight of immortality. "Kale," Siralith said softly, "do not fear. The blade does not demand blind courage. It demands understanding. Choose wisely." He closed his eyes, thinking of humanity's strengths. Courage, cleverness, hope. Humans survived because they adapted, worked together, and never gave up. He realized the blade was not just a tool for fighting. It was a chance to protect, to lead, and to inspire. I will take it," he said, opening his eyes. The sword seemed to respond, pulsing brighter as if acknowledging his decision. Siralith nodded, her face unreadable for a moment, then breaking into a smile. "Then the second trial begins. You have chosen responsibility, not power for its own sake. That is rare, even among humans." The chamber rumbled again and Kale steadied himself. He noticed new glyphs lighting up along the walls, revealing hidden passages. "What now?" he asked. "Now," Siralith said, "we face the challenge of the blade's full power. The ruins will test your will. You must prove that strength without fear is more than brute force. It is wisdom, patience, and heart." As they moved deeper into the ruins, Kale felt the weight of the blade in his hands. It was heavy, yet balanced, as if it had been made for him. He could feel the essence of Siralith within it, a connection between human and giant, past and present. They reached a massive hall, where the walls were lined with mirrors of polished stone. Reflections shimmered and twisted, showing not only Kale and Siralith, but strange visions of battles, victories, failures, and choices yet to come. "The mirrors show your potential," Siralith said. "They show what could be, if the blade is misused or if the heart falters. Look, learn, and remain true to yourself." Kale studied the reflections. He saw himself leading humans against impossible odds. fighting alongside Siralith in battles that would shape the planet's future. And he also saw himself alone, burdened by endless fights, a life of struggle without rest. "It is a heavy choice," Siralith said quietly. "Power is meaningless without understanding the cost, remember. The blade may grant you strength, but it will never protect you from what your heart must endure." Kyle gripped the hilt tighter, focusing on what mattered. He saw humanity's value, not in invincibility but in courage, cleverness, and resilience. The visions shifted, showing allies rising, humans working together, and a future where the blade could serve not only as a weapon, but as a symbol of hope. "Then we move forward," he said, his voice firm. "Together." The mirrors shimmered one last time before fading, revealing a staircase carved from stone, spiraling upward into a chamber glowing with golden light. Kale and Siralith ascended carefully. Each step seemed to resonate with the blade, harmonizing with its power. At the top, a final door blocked their path. Strange runes glowed, pulsing with energy. Siralith turned to Kale. "This is it. The last test. Beyond this door lies the blade's full recognition. Only one may wield it completely, and the choice must be yours alone." Kale nodded. The weight of the journey, the trials, and the battles to come pressed on him. But he was ready. Humans survived because they faced the impossible, adapted, and grew stronger. Now he would do the same. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the door. The runes flared, reacting to his touch. A voice seemed to echo in the chamber, ancient and deep. "Do you accept the responsibility?" Knowing the cost, Kale took a deep breath. "I do." The door shimmered and dissolved, revealing the blade of eternal flame, floating in the air, glowing brighter than ever. Kale felt its energy flow into him, not overwhelming him, but connecting to every thought, every instinct, every heartbeat. He understood the weight of its power, and he embraced it. Siralith watched, a mixture of pride and sorrow in her golden eyes. "Good," she said softly. "You are ready. But remember, the trials are not over. The blade tests the soul as well as the hand. Use it wisely, human. You carry more than a weapon. You carry hope." Kale nodded, feeling the surge of power and responsibility. He looked at Siralith, the golden-eyed giant who had trusted him, guided him, and shared her wisdom. "I will not fail," he said. "You never have," she replied, her voice full of warmth and laughter, "and perhaps you never will." The chamber trembled one last time, and the journey beyond the ruins awaited. Battles, enemies, and impossible choices lay ahead. But Kale was ready, blade in hand, heart steady, mind sharp. Humanity's ingenuity and courage had brought him this far, and now they would guide him further. The wind howled across the mountains, carrying dust and loose stones as Kale descended from the ruins with Siralith beside him. The blade of eternal flame hummed softly in his hands, its warmth spreading through him. A living presence he could feel in every heartbeat. He had passed the trials of the ruins, but Kale knew the true challenge was just beginning. Power was meaningless without enemies to test it, and enemies were coming. Below, in the valley where the ruins met the open plains, human activity was stirring. Scouts had reported a rival faction, drawn by rumors of the blade, moving quickly across the terrain. They were heavily armed, mercenaries with advanced weapons, trained to take what they wanted without hesitation. Kale tightened his grip on the hilt. The blade responded, pulsing with a faint flame as if sensing the danger. "Kyle," Siralith said, her voice low and commanding. "These humans may not understand the value of what we carry. They see the blade as a prize. They will not stop for caution or mercy. You must lead, or they will take it by force." Kale nodded. He felt the responsibility settle on his shoulders, heavier than any pack or weapon he had ever carried. Humans survived through cleverness, strategy, and unity. Now he had the blade, the guidance of a giantess, and the opportunity to show that even one human, with the right tools and courage, could make a difference. The valley below was vast, a patchwork of grasslands and rocky ridges. Kale and Siralith moved swiftly, avoiding the main roads where the enemy scouts might spot them. They set up ambush points, using terrain to their advantage. Kale realized that humans, though physically weaker than giants or many alien species, had an edge in strategy. He combined that edge with the blade's power, and the balance of the battlefield shifted. By late afternoon, the rival faction arrived. They were led by Commander Vera, a human who had once been an ally to Kale's people but now sought the blade for her own ambitions. Her troops spread across the plains, weapons raised, ready to claim the prize. Kale stepped forward, the blade of eternal flame glowing brightly in his hands. "I don't want to fight," he shouted, his voice carrying across the valley. "This blade is not a prize to be stolen. Leave now and you live." Vera laughed, a sharp mocking sound. "Brave words, human. But words do not stop power. We came for the blade and we will take it." Saralith moved beside Kale, her towering presence casting a shadow over the enemy ranks. "Do not underestimate the cost of your greed," she warned. Her voice resonated, full of power that made some soldiers hesitate. Kale raised the blade. It pulsed brighter as if acknowledging his will. The air around them shimmered and the temperature seemed to rise. Then without a sound, the first enemy soldier lunged forward. Kale reacted instinctively, swinging the blade. The energy in the weapon flared, striking the attacker without touching him directly, sending him tumbling backward. Chaos erupted. Kale moved with speed and precision, the blade guiding his actions. Each movement was a blend of human ingenuity and the blade's ancient power. He did not rely on brute force alone. He used the environment, lured enemies into traps, and redirected attacks. Saralith followed, crushing mercenaries with her massive arms, tossing them aside with careful precision. Together, human and giant fought in a way that neither enemy nor ordinary human could anticipate. The blade's flames danced along Kyle's arm, striking with perfect timing, never wasting energy, never killing unnecessarily. As the battle continued, Kale noticed a small group of soldiers attempting to flank them. They were moving too quickly, their weapons advanced, their minds focused on one goal, the blade. Kyle's eyes narrowed. This was a test not just of strength but of leadership, strategy, and courage. "Saralith," he called, "we split. You take the right ridge. I'll handle the left. Use the terrain to our advantage," she nodded. "Be careful, human. The blade will guide you, but your heart must remain steady." Kyle ran, feeling the blade hum in his hands. It responded to his thoughts, not controlling him, but lending strength where needed. He used rocks and fallen trees as barriers, drew enemies into traps, and struck with precision. Every move was a balance of human cleverness and the sword's power. Hours passed. The enemy faltered, confused by tactics they could not anticipate. Kale realized that humans, though small and seemingly weak, had a unique quality: adaptability. They could learn, change, and improvise faster than any creature. The blade amplified this, turning Kale's instincts into actions that seemed almost superhuman. Then, in the midst of the battle, Kale heard a cry. One of Vera's soldiers had seized a child from a nearby settlement, using her as leverage. Kyle's chest tightened. Protecting the innocent was always the priority, even in the chaos of battle. He pushed forward, the blade burning brighter, almost alive with purpose. Saralith joined him, lifting boulders to block escape routes and clear paths. Together, they cornered the soldier. Kale stepped forward, holding the blade with steady hands. "Release her," he commanded. The soldier laughed nervously. "And what?" "You'll stop me with that." "Sword?" Kale did not hesitate. The blade's energy flared, forming a shield of light that knocked the soldier off balance. Without harm, he was forced to let go of the child. Kale caught her, setting her safely aside. The blade's flames winked almost approvingly. Vera, watching from a ridge, clenched her fists. Impossible. How can one human... Kyle ignored her. He felt the weight of responsibility, not just the thrill of power. Humans did not fight for glory, they fought for survival, for others, for hope. That was the difference. And the blade, powerful as it was, responded to the same principle. The battle raged into the evening. The rival faction, unable to adapt to Kale and Saralith's combined strategy, began to retreat. Commander Vera realized the fight was lost and called her forces back, swearing revenge but acknowledging defeat for now. Kale lowered the blade, exhaustion pulling at him. Saralith stepped beside him, her golden eyes softening. "You fought well," she said. "The blade has recognized your heart. You used its power not for pride, not for revenge, but to protect. That is why it flows through you." Kyle looked at the sword. It glowed faintly in the dim light. Not just a weapon, but a connection. A link between human ingenuity and ancient strength. He felt Saralith's presence, her wisdom guiding him. Yet beneath the power, a shadow lingered. The knowledge that the blade's gift came with a price. "You will be tested further," Saralith said quietly. "Every choice you make will have consequences. The blade can protect you, but it cannot shield your heart from the weight of endless responsibility." Kyle nodded. Humans had survived countless challenges, faced enemies stronger than themselves, and risen through courage and cleverness. He understood now that the blade was not just about power, it was about trust, sacrifice, and purpose. Night fell across the valley, the stars glittering like shards of crystal. Kale and Siralith sat together reviewing the day's events. The humans they had saved approached cautiously, awe in their eyes. They looked at Kale with a mix of respect and fear, for he was now a symbol of something greater. What humanity could achieve when courage and intelligence met opportunity. "You did it," one soldier said softly. We didn't know humans could." Kyle smiled faintly. "We do what we must. That is all." Siralith's gaze met his. "You are ready," she said. "But soon you will face a choice that tests more than skill or courage. The blade's full power will demand sacrifice. And when that moment comes, you must decide." Kale held the sword, feeling its warmth, its pulse, and the echo of Siralith's laughter from the ruins. He knew the journey ahead would be harder. More enemies would come, more trials awaited. But he also knew something else. Humanity had something that no weapon, no giant, no alien could take away: ingenuity, courage, and the determination to rise, no matter the odds. As the fire crackled and the stars shone above, Kyle understood the truth. The blade had chosen him not just for strength, but for heart. And with that heart, he would protect those who could not protect themselves. And then, from the darkness, a faint, almost imperceptible laugh echoed, the sound of Siralith's presence, or perhaps the spirit of the blade itself. Kale smiled. The fight was far from over, but he was ready. Humans had survived worse. They had always adapted. And now, with the blade in his hands, Kale would prove it once again. The valley was quiet now, but Kale knew it would not stay that way for long. Commander Vera had retreated, but she would return. Others would come, drawn by the blade of eternal flame, hungry for power without understanding the cost. Kyle tightened his grip on the sword, feeling its warmth spread through him. The blade pulsed with a life of its own, guiding him, testing him, and reminding him of Siralith's warning. Strength came with responsibility. Siralith stood beside him, towering and calm. Her golden eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and thoughtful. "The time will come soon," she said softly. "Enemies will not wait. You must be ready to face them, and you may have to make choices that no human has ever faced before." Kyle nodded. He had fought before, defended the weak, and survived the trials of the ruins. But now he sensed something deeper. This was no longer about survival or skill. It was about leadership, courage, and the weight of destiny itself. As they prepared, scouts ran up from the base of the valley, breathless and tense.
"Kyle, sir?"
"They're coming, faster than before. Whole fleets of mercenaries, advanced technology. They've brought war machines." Kale's jaw tightened. He glanced at Siralith. "We knew this would come. We must defend, not just ourselves, but everyone who cannot fight." The ground trembled as the enemy advanced. Massive walkers, armed with energy cannons, moved in perfect formation. Soldiers poured from hovering ships, their weapons trained on Kale and the small group of humans behind him. This was no ordinary battle. This was a war, and the blade of eternal flame was the key. "Kale, follow me," Siralith shouted. She leaped forward with incredible speed, smashing the first wave of walkers with her enormous fists. The humans followed Kale's lead, using terrain, traps, and guerrilla tactics to slow the enemy. Kyle felt the blade's pulse in his hands. It flared as he swung it, striking not only enemies but also deflecting attacks before they reached his allies. The weapon responded to his instincts, but Kale knew it would not fight alone. Every victory came from strategy, courage, and trust in those around him. Hours passed in a blur of fire, smoke, and shouting. Kale fought relentlessly, the blade weaving through the battlefield like a living thing. Siralith cleared paths, saving humans from certain death, her laughter ringing even amidst the chaos, a sound that inspired those who fought beside her. And then, in the midst of the fight, Kale saw her, Commander Vera, standing atop one of the war machines, her eyes fixed on the blade. "This ends now," she shouted. "Hand it over or everyone dies." Kale felt the blade's energy surge. He stepped forward, his voice calm but full of authority. "The blade is not yours. It belongs to those who protect, not destroy." Vera laughed and her forces pressed forward. Kyle charged, the blade glowing brighter with each step. He moved faster than any human should, dodging energy blasts, knocking enemies aside, striking machines with precision that seemed almost impossible. The humans around him fought with renewed courage, inspired by his determination. Siralith joined him at the front, her strength unmatched, her presence overwhelming the enemy forces. She grabbed a war machine, hurling it into the ranks of the attackers, clearing a path for Kale. "Go! Lead them to safety!" she shouted. Kale hesitated. He wanted to stay beside her, fight together, but he remembered the blade's lesson. It was a weapon, yes, but it demanded choice and sacrifice. He nodded and sprinted forward, using every strategy he had learned to protect the humans fleeing the valley. The battle raged on, but Kale knew the decisive moment had come. Vera advanced alone, determined to take the blade. Kale met her at the center of the valley, the blade of eternal flame burning like a beacon in his hands. "Kale, surrender it," Vera demanded. "You cannot win." Kale shook his head. "You may have strength in numbers, but you lack understanding. The blade answers to heart, not ambition," Vera charged. Kale blocked her strike with the blade, the energy flaring violently. They fought, a clash of human ingenuity against ambition, each move testing Kale's skill and resolve. The blade pulsed with Siralith's presence, guiding Kale, amplifying his instincts but not taking control. He realized that this fight was more than physical. It was a test of character, of humanity itself. As the fight reached its peak, Siralith appeared behind Vera. In one decisive movement, she struck the war machine Vera had used for cover, forcing her to stumble. Kale seized the opportunity. The blade of eternal flame glowed brighter than ever, and with a single controlled strike, Kale disarmed Vera, sending her weapon flying into the distance. Vera fell to her knees, breathing heavily, eyes wide with disbelief. How is this possible?" she whispered. Kyle lowered the blade, his expression calm but firm. "Because humans fight not for glory, not for power, but for each other. That is strength you will never understand." The enemy forces paused, uncertainty spreading among them. Seeing their leader defeated, many surrendered. Realizing that brute force alone could not overcome humans guided by courage, strategy, and heart, Kale turned to see Siralith, her golden eyes glowing softly, smiling, but something in her expression made his heart tighten. "Kyle, the blade. It is complete now. But I cannot leave you this way. To wield such power fully, I must give myself to it." "What do you mean?" Kale asked, fear and confusion mixing in his chest. Siralith stepped forward, her hand brushing the blade. Light enveloped her form, her laughter ringing clear and bright, full of joy and acceptance. "I have lived long, Kale. I have guided you, taught you, and now it is time for me to pass. My essence will merge with the blade. You will have the power, but I will leave the world as I choose. Do not mourn me. Laugh with me instead, for this is freedom." Before Kale could respond, a brilliant flash of light filled the valley. Siralith's form shimmered, then dissolved into the blade. Kyle felt an immense surge of energy, knowledge, and presence enter him. The blade burned in his hands, alive with Siralith's spirit, amplifying his abilities beyond anything he had imagined. Kale fell to one knee, overwhelmed by the intensity, then rose again. The humans around him watched in awe as Kale, wielding the fully awakened blade, moved with strength, speed, and precision unlike any before. The enemy forces, seeing the display, fled in panic. Silence returned to the valley. The humans Kyle had protected approached cautiously, eyes wide with wonder and gratitude. Kyle looked at the blade, feeling Siralith's laughter within it, a reminder of sacrifice, courage, and the bond between human and giant. "You saved us," one soldier said, voice trembling. We didn't think humans could..." Kale smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we adapt, because we work together, and because we never give up. Strength is not just power. It is heart, courage, and cleverness." The sun began to rise over the mountains, painting the valley in gold and crimson. Kale stood atop a ridge, the blade glowing in the early light. Though Siralith was gone, her presence lingered, a guiding force and a reminder that humans could rise beyond expectation. Over the following weeks, Kale led humans in rebuilding the valley, fortifying settlements and training defenders. The story of their victory spread quickly across the region. Humans who had been seen as weak, small, or unremarkable were now celebrated for their courage, intelligence, and resilience. Kale became a symbol, not of invincibility, but of what humans could achieve when they combined skill, heart, and determination. The blade of eternal flame, once a weapon of legend, now symbolized more than power. It represented hope, unity, and the potential of humanity. Kale carried it not as a tool of conquest, but as a reminder of the bond between species, the sacrifices made, and the courage required to face impossible odds. And though Siralith had left the world of flesh, her laughter echoed in the blade, a constant reminder humans could rise, adapt, and endure. The giant's wisdom, combined with human ingenuity, had changed the course of the planet's future. Kyle looked out over the valley, feeling the warmth of the blade and the presence of his fallen friend. The enemies would return, challenges would come, but humanity had proven something vital. They could survive, they could thrive, and they could inspire hope in ways no one had expected. With the blade in his hands, Kale knew the journey was far from over. But he also knew this: humans, when united with courage, cleverness, and heart, could face any trial, overcome any enemy, and rise to greatness. The valley was quiet, the sun shining, and Kale smiled. The story of humans, and of the blade, was only beginning. And somewhere in the echoes of the mountains, a faint, joyful laugh carried on the wind, the last breath of Siralith, reminding all who would listen that even in sacrifice, there is freedom, and even in endings there is hope.